Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Super Mario 64. In the last where we went through all of Womb's Fortress, found ourselves here in Jolly Roger Bay, and it's time for our next star in here. Red coins on the ship afloat is of course the red coin mission for this stage, but only some of the red coins are actively on the ship that started floating after we completed the first mission. The others are all located in clams scattered across the seabed. There's one right here, there's one directly above me in the direction I'm facing basically right now. There's another to my left, and then there's one all the way down at the bottom of the main pit of water here. I would personally recommend grabbing all the red coins that are located off of the ship first, as when we collect the 8th red coin, the star itself spawns on the ship, so you might as well be there to grab it so you don't have to get back up there, just to save on very minor backtracking. Now, the swimming controls in this game, they're fine. Honestly, they're kind of faster than some of the other swimming controls in the series. I prefer swimming in this to, say, Sunshine, for instance, or especially Galaxy without using a Koopa shell in that game. The thing with a lot of the water levels, though, in this game in specific, is at times Mario 64's level design can feel kind of empty anyway, in terms of just what's in a given room, but because of how much space is often in the water levels, they feel often the emptiest. Which isn't a problem unique to this game specifically, to be very fair with 3D platformers. Climbing is easy. When you jump at trees, poles, or pillars, you grab them automatically. Press A to jump off backward. To rotate around the object, press left or right on the analog stick. When you reach the top, press up to do a handstand. Jump off from a handstand for a high style and dismount. There are some times where actively doing that dismount can get you a little extra height. So, yeah, like, a lot of 3D platformers often do have a water level that just feels kind of empty. Though that's actively something I'll give the Banjo games, as much as I dislike their water levels in specifically Rusty Bucket Bay and Jolly Roger's Lagoon. They're designed in such a way where you're never too far from something to do, but at the same time, that's also largely because the genre is different at that point. Because Mario 64 arguably jump-started a lot of collectathons, but the way its levels are structured never really feel like a collectathon to me. And I think that's because you get the distinct mission select screen that will either slightly change the world, or at least puts you in a state where you get a very specific thing in mind. Versus, say, a more standard collectathon like the ones Rare made, where you're more getting a lot of things done, you can do them in any given order. In that regard, honestly, the closest 3D Mario to being a collectathon to me is, honestly, Odyssey. And it's the rare time one of those completely clicks with me, because often collectathons just don't really stick with me for some reason. I honestly couldn't really even tell you why is the weird thing. When it comes to, like, collectathons and even 3D platformers in general, I tend to prefer ones that are either very focused movesets in more linear level design a la Hat in Time, or things like Pseudo Regalia, where it's very focused movesets in a more open than usual Metroidvania-y type map style. Time for the 5th mission, though, Blast to the Stone Pillar. We need to actively unlock the cannons for this particular one, as the star is located just near those 3 stone pillars we saw to the left of the screen a moment ago. We need to go over to the Bob-Omb buddy over here, talk to him, unlock the cannon, and shoot up to there. With that said, if memory serves, there is a way you can get to the base of the stone pillar and just run up it, but doing so can be incredibly finicky. To the point where I never really try to do it. I always go for the cannon here. Honestly, this is probably one of the easiest cannon shots in the game. I've just kind of gotten decent at figuring this one out over the years. You kind of have to aim for a cloud above the stone pillar on the far left, I believe. Also, largely moving the cannon in large sweeps is easy, but trying to do any kind of precise control to aim at something like a specific subpixel on a cloud or something like that, that sucks, and I dislike doing it. But guess what you have to do effectively every single time if you're trying to be precise? So for right now, that's actually all we're going to be doing in Jolly Roger Bay, as the 6th star here effectively requires one of the special caps. I think there's a way you can get it done without it, but it's just so precise to the point where I really don't care to. But before we leave this room, we want to jump up into this little hole in the wall over here for our first secret level. Located pretty regularly throughout Peach's Castle are mini levels that don't have a level select because they're just the one mission. In this case, it's an 8 red coin mission underwater. With that said, because you're underwater, the coins themselves are the only way for you to regenerate your oxygen meter, so you need to read where these coins are and read it fast, and then get the star fast, otherwise you're gonna take a death. I honestly really like the secret levels in 64, as simple as they often are, as their placement in specific just rewards curiosity in a way I really enjoy that the levels themselves do, but to a lesser extent. In a way, it kind of reminds me of just finding like one of those hidden offshoot paths in a Metroid to do a sequence break, even though there's no sequence breaking involved, effectively. Now, if there is one thing that can definitely be a little bit off-putting about the way I tend to play 64 and even Galaxy to an extent, because I get every star I can before moving on, there's gonna be times where I'm gonna have enough stars to get, say, the next main boss fight done or unlock the next 4 worlds before I'm even done with a certain other world. I think the most interesting way to play 64 on a first run is to do a couple stars per world, move on to the next one, and then come back later, just kind of keeping aesthetics fresh constantly. But this is just how I prefer to play the game, so it's how I'm doing it. Also, I mentioned already that talking to the signs is kind of precise. For some reason, talking to the toads feels even more precise, and I can't quite figure out why. The names of the stars are also hints for finding them. They're displayed at the beginning of each course. You can collect the stars in any order. You won't find some stars, enemies, or items unless you select a specific star, though. After you collect some stars, you can try another course. We're all waiting for your help. Usually what's really exclusive to certain stars is mini-bosses and things tied to them. For instance, at Womp's Fortress, the tower is in every level after the first one because King Womp is at the top otherwise. But honestly, that only really comes into play if you're trying to get the 100 coin mission done in some cases. And in the rare case, there's a certain mission you can't get done until you get another mission done, but that's only really in 1 or 2 levels at most, and we'll talk about that more directly when we come across it. Snow Mountain Summit. Watch for slippery conditions. Please enter the cottage first. Santa Claus isn't the only one who can go down the chimney. Come on in, Kevin Proprietor. Mission 1 of Cool Cool Mountain requires us to do just so. Welcome to one of the fan-favorite musical tracks of the game. Welcome to the snow slide. Hop on. To speed up, press forward on the analog stick. To slow down, pull back. Slide levels in this game happen every here and there, and they're largely pretty straightforward, but they can be a little scary if you actively hold the analog stick forward too much and you gain too much momentum because of things like that. Most of the slides in the game are not fenced in any way, barring maybe 1 section per, and that makes them a bottomless pit death trap if you move too quickly. Which isn't annoying for the most part, but there's one mission that's definitely a little rough with it. With that said, not a bad way to get coins for the 100 coin star when we inevitably get this one, as there's like 30, 40 coins on this one as it is. There is notably a shortcut you can take in this one, that right here in this wall right here, that largely has some 1-ups for you, and ends up, I think, at another 1-up at the top of the goal area. The tiniest part about this specific slide, though, is the very ending if you don't take the shortcut, as you have to slide over a few ice cubes that are much thinner than the room they're in. And you need to be dead center in the slide, otherwise you're falling off into a bottomless pit. With that said, for this star, we just need to complete the slide in any case and exit the door. Upon doing so, your star will spawn, and we're already 1/6 of the way done here. I also really like the ice level theme in this game. Mind you, Mario 64's soundtrack is short, but incredibly sweet. Basically, every musical track is incredibly easy to listen to and just put you in a good mood. Also, just to comment on it directly, whenever you see a fade transition after a level like that exact one, that's me restarting the recording. I like to do games on a 1 level per recording basis anyway nowadays, but in this specific game, depending on the stars, I got 1 to 3 done and then started a new recording in most cases. I think I've roughly talked about why I do that in the past. It largely comes down to less chance of things messing up behind the scenes, like less chances for OBS to screw up the recording, less for me to redo in the case it does, things like that. So even though there's more video files for me to edit through, they're shorter anyway, and it's easier to get through. So mission 2 here of Cool Cool Mountain is Little Penguin Lost. There are several baby penguins around the map that you can take to the mama penguin, but only the one at the top of the mountain near the start is the one that she's actually looking for. With that said, there's a couple routes to get through this a little more easily. This is the one I always do. With that said, it's definitely a little dangerous getting across this mountain while carrying the penguin, as when you're carrying something, Mario does move at a pretty slow pace. With that said, take advantage of the fact that the snow's around here to take some risky falls, as you actually take no fall damage in snow levels, assuming you're just falling onto snow, as you'll just sink into it and have to get popped back out after a moment. You found my precious, precious baby. Where have you been? How can I ever thank you, Mario? Oh, I do have this star. Here, take it with my eternal gratitude. The annoyance in this star largely comes in trying to figure out which penguin it is that you need to bring to the mama. With that said, after you learn it, it becomes a very quick star, as it's always the same penguin every time. It's always the one near the start. So Super Mario 64 has like 5 or 6 stars probably in total that have been long time issues for me in either execution or just trying to figure out how exactly it works. And this is probably the first of them we've seen, Big Penguin Race. This one requires us to head back to the slide section. And the issue I always have with it largely comes down to I get really aggressive, but you kind of need to be to an extent. Hey, Mario buddy, how's it going? Step right up, you look like a fast sledding kind of guy. I know speed when I see it, yes sirree, I'm the world champion sledder, you know. What do you say? How about a race? Ready? We gotta race this guy down. You can't take the shortcut or even like, say, try to jump off the slide in such a way where you land further down the course because he'll call you out for cheating and then you have to start over. He does have notable rubber band AI, I believe, but you also do need to keep a good pace to try and keep up with him. I'd recommend only passing him at the very last second, but doing so requires decent enough management of speed where I just never really enjoy doing this level. That specific turn right there is probably the hardest one to actually make, though, as it's the sharpest you really need to go, and you do need some good speed to get around it. Not a fan of this one, but thankfully, it's not the worst. Just gotta be careful of that last second choke point there at the very end. As long as you make it through there, you've won. Well, as long as you make it through there and win this race as well. You broke my record. Unbelievable. I knew that you were the coolest. Now you've proven that you're also the fastest. I can't award you a gold medal, but here, take this star instead. You've earned it. Out of the stars that are usually problems for me, this one is probably the overall easiest. It's just that it's very easy to let slight impatience or adrenaline with the race kick in and make you go too fast too quickly, leading either to your death or the penguin overtaking you via rubber banding. With that, we're now going on to the red coin mission for Cool Mountain, which as a kid was probably bottom 3 least favorite red coin missions in the game. Nowadays, it's alright. The thing is with this specific red coin mission is that there's no real convenient route to get all of the red coins on the way down the mountain once. We need to take advantage of a teleport point like the 2 we saw back in Bob-Omb Battlefield, either on the flower patch or in the one little hole in the wall that the cannonballs came out of. To go down the mountain, get some red coins along the way, teleport back up, and then go do the same. I think there might technically be a better route than this, but again, I'm not a speedrunner. I don't play this game enough to really have all that kind of stuff memorized. But it can definitely be a little bit tricky. With that said, red coin missions in general aren't too bad here in 64. There's only really a couple that I'd say are just really annoying. The fact that red coins in specific have a larger draw distance than normal coins was a good choice by them in that regard. And because of, I'm not going to say sparse level design, but the way this game's levels are visually made, there's usually enough focal points where you can easily see red coins from a distance anyway. Compare that to Sunshine, where the levels are a little more, I'm gonna say visually cluttered, despite the fact I actually like how Sunshine's levels look. There's more in the way to see, rather. The red coin missions are much more annoying there. Plus, scale-wise, I believe Sunshine levels are generally larger, just to account for the new moveset with Flood. It helps that Sunshine also has the rare red coin that actively tries to run away from you for some reason and can even escape the level's bounds for a little bit if you get too close to it. That was really annoying and a dumb idea. Why did they do that? So the major teleport point for this particular level is at the end of this bridge. Hug right about here and we get warped back up towards where we start in the level, and we can use this as a convenient teleport point to get to the next red coin right here. The 8th one I actively could have grabbed earlier because it's near this little snowman head right here we'll be investigating in a later mission. I guess theoretically the most convenient route for the red coins in this would be getting the one near the start, going down the warp point, getting the ones down there, and then going down the slide, getting this 1 second last and the one at the edge of that bridge last. As then you're right next where the star spawns, but that's just out of the way enough where it doesn't really... There's no way to do this that really feels super efficient. And it's the rare case with those two in my experience. Also, 2 specific ways to reach this star. Either you can do a long jump from the edge of this bridge, or you can get to the platform behind us and just fall down at the moment. I forget exactly how you do that most easily. I think it'd be falling down from the teleport point and then going elsewhere from there. But we see that more in the 100 coin mission. 5th mission is the actual problem child here in Cool Mountain. Snowman's lost his head. The snowman head we saw earlier is missing its body, and the body is missing its head. The body is all the way up here. We need to go talk to it to trigger it sliding down the mountain with us. At that point, it's a bit of a race. I need a good head on my shoulders. Do you have anyone in need of a good body? Please, I'll follow you if you do. As it rolls down, it gains speed and size, and you need to race it down to the head. With that said, you kind of need to aim it into the head in a weird way, and I think the best way to do so is to investigate it, hug the wall as you come down here effectively, and then talk to the head and then hide behind it. This has always felt just super finicky. Oh no, talk about an out-of-body experiences, my buddy's melted away. Have you run into any headhunters lately? I sure could use a new buddy. My face not right freeze like this. You're made of snow. I mean, I guess snow can freeze. I'm from the Northeast. I know how that be, but you're already made of cold. Perfect. What a great new buddy. Here, this is a present for you. It's sure to warm you up. I got that done in like, what, a minute and a half? This took me upwards of 40 minutes to get right as a kid because it just would never aim correctly. I think it is the order of operations that's super important there. I just don't like that one historically, even though it's not too bad nowadays. With that, we're now on to the final mission here in Cool Mountain, which is also the opportunity I'm going to take to do the 100 coin mission. This is wall kicks will work. This is one of the few missions I mentioned earlier in the LP where you're required to use the wall jump to complete it, which I already mentioned can be finicky as hell, but they at least give you a good enough space in this level to practice it and try to get good at it, so use that to your advantage. Like I mentioned, though, 100 coin-wise, Cool Mountain isn't too bad, as doing the slide will get you most of what you need along the way, and from there, using the 8 red coins, the blue coins near this miniature slide, and anything else along the way will get you that pretty easily. They do run a gamut across the game's levels for what's a really annoying 100 coin mission and what's not. For instance, there's one specific level where there's only just over 100 coins in total you can find, and it makes it one of the harder ones, but other ones are like, yeah, no, if you do the slides even, there's potentially upwards of 150 coins. So from here to actually access the area where we need to do this mission, we need to go talk to the Bob-Omb buddy over here and completely miss the platform. We need to talk to the Bob-Omb buddy because we need the cannon to actively get across to where that tree is in the distance. You can either long jump and actually aim correctly to get to the island where the Bob-Omb buddy is over here, or use this little platform. You might think you're going to get stuck at this point, but there actually is some winds near the platform that'll actually blow you up if you're trying to wall jump to the right to try and avoid the bottomless pit. Use that to your advantage, otherwise you're probably going to be facing some really stupid deaths. Out of all the cannon shots in the game, this is probably one of the most annoying ones to actively aim correctly for. There's one that's much more annoying, but that's a very specific one in a later game mission. What's annoying about this one is, if you go too high, you're going to hit the wall up there and just get bounced back down into the bottomless pit more than likely. Aim too low, you're just not going to make it, period. They do at least give you a little bit of a grace where if you miss the tree, you're probably going to hit the fence behind it and then not fall off into the bottomless pit that way, but yeah, that specifically very much sucks. These enemies have a bit of a quirk to them, but I'll talk more about that when we encounter them more in depth later on. Get a good run up the slope. Do you remember the long jump? Run, press Z, then jump. Indeedy so, you also need to master that to get to this specific star section. Here's the wall jump section. Remember that tricky wall kick jump? It's a technique you'll have to master in order to reach high places. Use it to jump from wall to wall. Press the control stick in the direction you want to bounce to gain momentum. Practice makes perfect. Like I said earlier, you gotta get a bit of a running start, and then effectively, the exact same moment you hit the wall, press the jump button again to bounce backwards. Timing this can be weirdly precise. Once you kind of get it memorized, the feel of it, it's not too bad, similarly to wall jumps in Super Metroid and a lot of the other Metroid titles. But I just don't like doing it in this game in specific. I much prefer wall jumps from most other entries in the franchise, if only because they make it much more lenient. With that, we're now completely done in Cool Mountain, so we're going to be moving on, but it's still not yet time for the boss fight of this section of the game, as there's not only one more full world we can go try to investigate for now. There's also a couple of other hidden levels we can access. You might notice there's light shining down there that wasn't there before. We'll investigate that later. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 4, we're going to check out what's in this general vicinity before moving on. See you guys then.